Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
You are now listening to the Backlook Cinema Podcast with Zach and Zoe. Thank you for joining us as we talk about the movies of yesteryear. You can reach us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter by searching for Backlook Cinema. Check our show notes for more info, and now, let's get it in.
Hi, this is Zach.
And this is Zoe, and welcome to the Backlook Cinema Podcast with Zach and Zoe. And this is our 24th episode. And the reason we started, I'm already messing up from the break, get tongue-tied. The reason we started this show was to strengthen our bond between I, Zoe, and my son, Zach. We watch movies that I loved when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s and 90s and get the impressions of the millennial we know as Zach. We watch these great movies, and we're going to see what's what. We're going to see what's happening. So, why don't you tell them about the merch?
You can get t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, face masks, and a bunch of other items at our website, backlookcinema.com.
And please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and the other socials. You can find details in the show notes also at backlookcinema.com. You can leave us direct feedback, comments, suggestions, etc. Or you can email at fanmail@backlookcinema.com. You know what? We might even read them on the show. If we ever get any. We ain't got none yet. Well, I got one from your grandma one time. So that but it was like, why don't you do this? It's one of those. You know how parents are. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. One of them is in front of me, bothering me with this nonsense.
Right. So what was the other thing? Also, as I mentioned last week, we got some new designs up right there available at the website. The main website you go to is the Teespring website and the TeePublic website. So the easiest way is to go to the backlookcinema.com website, and you can click on the pictures, and it'll take you directly to the Backlook Cinema merch store at each of those sites. So there's some pretty designs, thanks to Zachary, with the pretty designs. I still ain't ordered enough for your mom yet. I got to get down to that since she's the one that asked for those designs. Have you seen them yet?
No.
Okay, well, take time out of your busy schedule and head on over and take a look at what you have wrought.
I'll think about it.
I only did some minor editing on your things, but yeah. Well, why don't you go to our website and check it out? How about that?
I'll think about it.
So, what was it? Go to the next one.
I was about to say, and please, if you like our show, then rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast app that you might be using.
So what have you been up to?
Nothing.
Nothing? No shows? No nothing?
No.
You ain't even watch?
Well, I mean, other than going on Hulu now, since soon I will lose Cartoon Network as an availability to watch.
Have you seen Hulu? I mean, have you seen it on Hulu?
The shows I've been watching on Cartoon Network? Not the shows that I expected to see there, but other shows, yeah, like Chowder. I've been binge watching that.
Oh, you binge watching on Hulu?
Yeah.
Okay, but you haven't seen you haven't seen some of the newer shows on.
I mean, they got Teen Titans Go for some reason, but they don't got the new Ben 10. I'm like, that's very weird, but whatever.
Right.
Sure.
Right. It's probably a lot of shows missing. So yeah,
you got that right.
I guess you read the email where.
Oh yeah, I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's why I asked you for the password.
Right. So then they were like, yeah, we're changing up our structure, and I know this is something's like, man, F you guys. Every time we get a cable package, they always take away something that we want to watch. They always do that, and I hate them for it. They know I can't afford to go up another tier. It's too expensive. That's why I took it down a tier. It's too expensive. I can't do it. I can't do it right now. I have to pay off all my credit cards, and then maybe I can go up one tier where they have Cartoon Networks. But until that happens, I can't do it. It's unfair, and I hate them for life.
I mean, since we have streaming shows, we can just cancel the whole tier thing. Just keep the internet part. I feel like we can do that.
That's another problem. Which it's more expensive to have internet by itself than to have a cable package. So it doesn't make sense to cancel the It doesn't make sense to cancel the cable. But yeah, that's we're half cable and half streaming networks. So that's the way we're rocking right now. So so you've been binging. So that's one thing. Any comics, anything like that?
Any what?
Comics you've been reading? Any
No.
comics? No, nothing like that. No books at all.
No.
Not even that Zelda book that you
No.
bought to prove your argument. Nothing like that.
Nope.
Oh my goodness. Uncultured.
Not really.
Let's see. What about your games?
I mean, the only thing there is Smite and Outriders. That's just about it. Nothing else.
Outriders.
Stop.
We're suing
No,
the courts
I just said
because
stop.
F and don't
No.
get a 2 in the
No.
source.
To stop.
Do you know where that song's from?
Last time I remember you told me it was some Eminem, but you just changed out one of the words with Outriders.
Right. Because he was part of a group called Outsiders. It's on his first album, so you had a lot of his old stuff on his first album. So anyways, so I've been getting into the Captain America Red, White, and Black. It talks about the first Black Captain America in World War II. So I only read the first book. I think it's a series of 6 books. I only read the first book of that. And then since I've finished the Outriders demo, I decided to go back to what's that game I've been playing? The game with the spaceship. Outer Worlds. So, it's a boring game, but it's the right kind of boring. Just, you just settle down and you just total relax. You just basically zen out and do the missions. Maybe there's a gunfight every once in a while, but otherwise...
I mean, that's how Fallout was, the first 2 games.
Right. But otherwise, you just totally zen out and you just follow the story until you finish. Because I'm playing the first of the DLC, the DLC mission, and then the second one they had released.
Did you even beat the game first?
You can, but I prefer to finish the DLC.
No, finish the main game, then do the DLC, because that's the whole point.
No, you can do it.
No.
Stop. Have you played the DLC?
No.
All right, then what are you worried about it for? Just like the other way is Horizon Zero Dawn. They did it the same way. They made it so you didn't. As a matter of fact, in Horizon Zero Dawn, if you pay attention to the story, they would rather you finish the DLC before you finish the main game. Because when you start playing the DLC after you finish the main game, then nothing anybody says makes any sense. Or it makes sense, but it feels out of context. So
this is why games were better when they came out 100% instead of like 25%, and everything else is DLC.
Well, it's not that way. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, it's a relatively small mission. There's only one, and then what you call it, and then the 2 missions that they have in Outer Worlds, they're relatively small missions. I kind of like that because I know a lot of people, they probably finished that game a while ago, and then next thing you know, you get DLC. Like, ooh, DLC. But I like incorporating the DLC in the main story. I like doing that. It's just something that I like doing. I know I could have finished the main story because I was close. I was at the last mission. I was at the very last mission, and then it was one of those places like if you go past this point, you can't save anymore. One of those points. But ooh, dang, that's the word. I almost knocked the thing down. But I like including the DLC in the main story. So that's what I'm about right now. So that's what else? Drawing a little bit, editing, but not much. Like you, ain't got a lot done. So let me ask you something. What movie did we look at?
We watched a movie called Se7en.
Se7en, or some other places, it's actually called the 7 Deadly Sins, especially in Spanish-speaking countries. Taken literally in those countries, it's called the 7 primary sins or the 7 main sins. So, are you familiar with the 7 deadly sins? Have you known about it before watching this movie?
Oh yeah, I knew about them.
Oh, okay. So, you know what? Let's get into this. Let's talk about 7.
All right. 2 homicide detectives, desperate hunt for a serial killer who justifies his crimes as absolute for the world's ignorance of the 7 deadly sins. The movie takes us from the tortured remains of one victim to the next as the sociopath John Doe sermonized to Detective Somerset and Mills. One sin at a time, the seasoned and cultured but jaded Somerset reaches the 7 deadly sins in an effort to
researches
researches the 7 deadly sins in an effort to understand the killer's modus operandi.
Modus operandi.
Modus operandi, while the bright but green, impulsive Mill scoffs at his efforts to get inside the mind of a killer. And that was by Mark Fleetwood.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to put that together. So
I mean, I can figure out some ways.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen this movie. And do you know what modus operandi is?
I guess a reasoning to why they're doing it.
Yeah, it's the mode of how they did it. It's not really why they did it, but how they did it. The modus operandi. So they use this to find out how, especially with serial killers. So if somebody was blindfolded and toilet paper stuck in their mouth and then stabbed to death, and then they get to another murder and then they see the exact same thing, then they know that it was killed by the same person, and their modus operandi is to blindfold the person, stuff toilet paper down their mouth. So this movie was released in September 22nd, 1995 by New Line Cinema. It grossed over $100 million US and Canada and $327 million worldwide. And that was on a $33 million budget. And it had generally positive reviews. As you can see from the box office numbers, that joint was a certified hit, $300 million out of a $30 million investment. That's pretty awesome. So this movie was starring Morgan Freeman. Have we not talked about this gentleman before?
Yes, we have.
As Detective William Somerset. He's been on, as I mentioned before, The Electric Company, and also Driving Miss Daisy, and Clean and Sober, and Unforgiving.
And we have Brad Pitt as Detective David Mills. He was in Thelma and Louise, Cool World, 12 Monkeys, Fight Club, and Troy.
So yeah, that's not all of those are great movies, but this is like when he made this movie, he was a red hot superstar, and he's still a fairly popular actor, still making great movies. This movie also stars Kevin Spacey as John Doe. Kevin Spacey is problematic, so the less said about him, the better.
Oh yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow was playing Tracy Mills. He was an Iron Man, Hook, Sallow Hal, Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow and Avengers Endgame.
You remember who she played?
I can't remember the name of her character.
Do you remember what her character did?
She was with Iron Man a lot. She was what's his name? Escaping me.
Trying to think of Iron Man's real name?
Yeah, I can't remember at the moment.
Oh my goodness. Your comic knowledge is lacking.
No,
she started off
Pepper, that's her name.
Oh, there you go. You got it. She started off as Tony Stark's secretary, and later they married. So she was in most of the Marvel movies that featured Tony Stark. I think the only one that she wasn't in was Spider-Man Homecoming. So anyways, we also have R. Lee Ermey. He played the police captain. He was in Full Metal Jacket, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, and Mississippi Burning. And people mostly know him from Full Metal Jacket, where he played a drill sergeant. And he was very convincing because he was in the Marine Corps, and Full Metal Jacket is a Marine Corps movie. So we'll be seeing him in the future.
We have Richard Roundtree.
Right.
District Attorney Martin Talbot was the character he played. He was in Saft. What?
Read them as they're separate movies. They're all separate movies.
Right. Okay. Saft. Speed Racer, Joy, and George of the Jungle. Why didn't you just put what the other two were?
I just thought it was funny. So
no,
the name is pronounced Talbot, Martin Talbot, and yeah, because he was in Shaft, which is the original movie where he played a character named Shaft. Then he was in Shaft, where he played the father.
I feel like there should be a subtitle.
He played. No, there is no subtitle. That's
you're telling me that all they did was they just remade the same movie, but
it's not even a remake. It's a continuation. But it's because there is a sequel to Shaft, a direct sequel to the first movie, and it's I think Shaft in Africa. I can't remember. It's Shaft, and then there's a subtitle. But in these movies, it was Shaft, where he played a man named John Shaft. There was Shaft, where he played a man named John Shaft, but he's not the star of the movie. He's the uncle of the star, which happens to be John Shaft. Why they named the nephew right after his uncle? I don't know. I don't know how to get away, but they did. And then Shaft. Shaft just recently came out. It stars him, the original John Shaft. It stars his nephew, who's also John Shaft, and then
let me guess. The next one is named John Shaft too.
He's actually John Shaft Jr. So he actually has a junior after his name.
Oh my
He's
God.
the son
that's not
of the middle John Shaft.
That's not how it should work.
Right, and the only movie that was really
I can't even type that in without it being confusing on Google. Like, hey, can I get Shaft? Which one do you want? We got many of them.
Well, you could say Shaft 1970, whatever. Then there's Shaft 19. I think they came out in 2009 or something. And then the last Shaft came out in 2018.
Oh, so you should have put that down then. So I was confused.
I was having fun with that. I was having fun.
Well, let's just get on to the next person.
John C. McKinley. He played California. He was let's see, officer. He was in Office Space, Get Carter, The Rock, and Set It Off. So we've seen this cat before. The movie was kind of dark, so you probably didn't see him. But if I tell you he was in Set It Off, then you know who I'm talking about. So, remember the main guy in the main police officer that was chasing the women and Set It Off?
No.
So you don't even remember that movie?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. So we just saw it a few weeks ago. So you remember Set It Off, where you had the female bank robbers?
Are you talking about the main police detective? Him?
Right.
Him.
Right. So
that was in Scrubs.
Right. That was the dude in Scrubs. So he was also in Office Space. So he was that SWAT dude, the main SWAT dude. But like I said, like when you can see him more clearly, it's like when they remember the guy that
was he the one that backed up because of the body?
Right. And the dude was still alive. Yeah, that's that dude. All right, so we got Julie Ariks.
Yeah, I was gonna say Julie Arisgard. Yeah,
my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I know.
Go ahead.
Julie Arisgard was playing Mrs. Gould.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And then we have Mark Boone Jr. He played the greasy FBI man, and he was in Batman Begins, Rosewood, Too Fast, Too Furious, John Carpenter's Vampires, and The Quick and the Dead. I had to include him because he was in Batman Begins.
That's just a horrible thing.
From what I remember, in Batman Begins, he has a lot of hair. But in that movie, he didn't. The greasy FBI agent was the guy that came over and they gave that money.
Yeah, I had to figure who you was talking about when you said greasy FBI.
Right. That's how he's credited. He's a greasy FBI guy.
This movie was directed by David Fincher. He also did Zodiac, Gone Girl, The Social Network, Panic Room, and Alien 3.
Have you seen any of those?
I don't recall.
But you said
I can tell that The Social Network is about Facebook.
Right. So I remember seeing that. But I thought you saw all the Alien movies.
Are you talking about the one with, who I did see them? Because I was like, Aliens.
So Alien 3 was the one where Ripley went to the penal colony.
And that's when it was like she wants her character to be dead and not come back because she did not want to do a third movie.
Right. So the only other one I seen besides Social Network and Alien 3, I remember seeing Panic Room on a DVD but I don't remember if I saw it. I kind of think that I did. And I seen some of Gone Girl. That came out like a few years ago, and we actually have the DVD or whatever. But what happened was we was in the theater. We was watching it, and it was like halfway through, and the theater got a fire alarm. We had to evacuate the theater, and I never finished the movie.
Did you get your money back?
No, we got like vouchers, but I never cashed my voucher. So
horrible.
Yeah, that's a lost money. It was written by Andrew Kevin Walker, and he wrote Sleepy Hollow 8 millimeter, or 8 if you will, The Wolfman, and that's all I wrote down here. Have you seen any of those?
No.
Sleepy Hollow's pretty good. That's what's his name? The guy that did Batman was Tim Burton. That's a Tim Burton movie. The Wolfman, not so much.
Music is by Howard Shore, who did Mrs. Doubtfire,
Yep.
Crash, Copland, and That Thing You Do.
You
Stop.
doing
No.
that
No.
thing
No.
You lucky I don't know the rest of the words. I would sing that whole song right here.
No.
It's that catchy.
No.
I've seen the only one I didn't see was Copland, but Mrs. Doubtfire. That was have you seen that one?
No.
That's when Robert Williams. That movie is fire. Anyway, executive producers Dan Colrud, Dan Colrud, and Culpelson, and Gianni Nunmar. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing executive producers? Nobody cares about these people.
I don't know. That's not you. You're the one that's writing them down. I mean,
Gianni Nunmari. And so, you know what? We're going to take a break right here while I get my tongue together so I know how to speak. And then we'll be right back after this. Hi, fam. This is Zoe. And I'm not here to try to convince you to buy a Klingon rifle or to offer you a fully paid trip to Narnia. No, friends, this time I want to encourage you to listen to Audio Oddity. Audio Oddity is a real podcast that features the father and daughter team of Rocky and M. On their show, they talk about TV, movies, video games, and intriguing news for the inner geek. I enjoy listening in on this beautiful team because they like a lot of the same games, shows, and movies that I like. They talk about movies like Godzilla vs. Kong, TV shows like Invincible, and they talk about games like Outriders. I enjoy their show so much that I invited Rocky and M as co-hosts on the Backlook Cinema podcast next week. So, if you're into geek stuff, then please listen to Rocky and M on Audio Oddity. The Audio Oddity podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're back. So, this is where we find out, what did the millennial think about the movie?
it's good. It can pass as something that came out today.
Yeah, it did age well, didn't it?
Yeah.
I liked it. Have you seen any of the Saw movies?
So, I believe I've seen one of them. Probably
Yeah.
saw 2 or 1.
I've seen Saw 2, and let me tell you, that's the only Saw movie I ever need to see. I don't need to see one more Saw movie. You know that Chris Rock is going to do a Saw movie?
Oh, wow. That's insane. So you're going to go watch that
I'm
one?
not going to watch it.
You are?
No, I'm not going to watch it.
Why not?
I mean, I want to watch Chris, and this is a serious movie. It's not like exactly Saw. It's more like, it's kind of like a, from what I can understand, it's more like a, what do you call it? Not an offspring. Spinoff. It's kind of a spinoff of Saw, but it's definitely related to the Saw universe. But nope, it's not dealing with the blood and gore. Not gonna do it. It's too realistic. So
You'll be fine.
And the thing about Saw, the reason I brought Saw up, because he makes them do it to themselves.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Right. So that was what happened in this movie, 7. 7 was the original Saw, except you saw the results of what happened when they did it to themselves, but you didn't see
how they did it.
Yeah, you didn't actually see it in progress. You just saw when the detective showed up, there's blood everywhere and the smell of a dead body, and you encounter the results of what happened. So, what were your favorite parts about this movie?
I guess when they're going around trying to figure out what his whole motive is, why he's doing it.
Right.
Who's the next person gonna be?
Right. That the whole detective aspect of the movie, the way it was put together, that was lovely. So, in any particular murder caught your fancy?
I guess the one that was tied to the bed, who he had there for like years, apparently.
Yeah, that was a trip, wasn't it? And the thing about that one was he wasn't yet dead.
He was just there for years.
Right.
Which means this man was planning this ahead of time.
Right. He planned it way ahead of.
He didn't care what detective took the job. He just wanted someone.
Right.
And one of them was going to end up being Wrath.
Right. That is true. So, the other thing about it was that when they brought that guy to I guess they brought him to the hospital, and they said that dude is it's like if you shine a bright light in his eyes, he'll probably die from shock. That's how far gone he was. It's like he wasn't dead yet, but he was about to die. What do you think about the other murders?
There was gluten. All you can question is like, how did he really die as a gluten? But then it's like, well, he had to eat something, or was force fed something.
No, it's gluttony. It's not gluttony. It's not gluten. So gluttony is that when you eat too much, you get overweight. That's gluttony. So he was force fed to death. So basically, he was forced to eat until his stomach ruptured, and when his stomach ruptured, he basically bled internally, and he died from internal bleeding and hemorrhaging and all the most messed up way to die, really. And what was the other death?
The other one was greed. That was the second one.
Oh, greed. Right. So you didn't really get to see much of that. That was mainly told through photographs. But the most impactful one of there was the killer wrote greed and blood,
blood
all over
on
the floor.
the floor.
Like in the other murders, the message was subtle. Like gluttony, he hid that message behind
a refrigerator.
And then sloth, you didn't. I mean, what was it?
Sloth was the one tied to the bed.
Was that? Yeah, that was the one tied to the bed. So in sloth, you didn't really saw it until you went to his apartment, and then somebody. I think. How did they find out about him? Did somebody call the police?
Tell him the body.
Yeah. How did they?
Okay, so
because the second one, greed. Because of the second one.
Yeah, the second one, greed, because they had to go to the wife to figure out, is there anything you see unnatural in the pictures? And she pointed out, that painting is upside down. When they moved the painting, they looked all over the painting, didn't find anything. Even tore the back off, didn't find anything. That's when, they examined the wall to where they found out there was fingerprints.
Right.
After they scanned the fingerprints, figure out who it belonged to, found out it belonged to some murderer or whatever.
It was a drug
dealer. Went down to his location because they figured it was him, even though it spelled out "help me."
Right.
Should be a hint saying it can't be him because it says "help me" in his fingerprints.
Right.
So went down to where he was staying at, busted down the door, searched the room. Now, the one thing that should throw off that something had happened to him was the amounts, and I mean heavy amounts of fresheners in that room. So that tells you there is a murder there, and it's being covered up by the endless amount of years used of scents.
Right.
They find the body, and they can tell the body itself stinks. And, it's barely being covered up, even because as you get close to it, uncover it.
Right. It started to stink when they got close to it, but then when they removed the blanket, they covered the whole body. The stank punched them in the face. So the stank wasn't for the people who were the air freshener wasn't for the people who were already in the apartment. The air freshener was for the people that lived in the neighboring apartments.
So they didn't tell
they couldn't tell because there was enough air freshener so that anybody that lived around them, they couldn't smell it. But once you go in there, punches you in the face. And I've been near people who stink so bad it punches in the face. Let me tell you.
Oh yeah, I've been too.
On
a train. And it's like, can you go take a shower, please?
Oh my God, it was so bad. I remember one time I went to school and there was a student there. This is like, I was in this is Prince George's Community College. So it was more like a college. So I went there and in one of my classes, there was a woman and she, oh my God, she was repugnant. And she was an obese woman. She sat near the front row. So the teacher got the worst with her. Everybody else in the class sat as far away from her.
Sat in the back possible. Near the window.
I mean, they tried to talk to her. They gave her soap. It was like everything but this woman, every single class, she was repugnant. It's like the type of person who didn't take a bath. So it's one or two things. Either she didn't take a bath or she just had a medical condition that she stank. But yeah, so I've experienced that. So I know what those detectives are going through. Maybe they're going through something that's 10 times over. And the thing about it was that he was still alive.
Yeah, he was still alive.
Right. So there's some trivia on that dude too. And what was the other murders? What else?
There was envy, lust. What was the other one?
So envy was like at the end.
Yeah, envy was the end.
Envy and wrath was the last two.
I know lust was when they went down to the sex place.
Right.
Where
like
he forced a guy to kill another girl by having sex with her, but what he did was tie a knife to him.
Right, he tied a knife where, as though it were a strap on. So instead of a dildo, it was a very sharp knife, and forced the guy to have sex with the prostitute with the knife. And the guy was messed up after that. Because it was supposed to punish both of them. It was supposed to punish him without killing him, and the prostitute, because he really hated the prostitute. That was really what he wanted to do. So I'm like, and they discovered, and they knew that she was their next victim, because one of the best parts I liked was when they figured out who he was before he was ready for them to figure it out. So that's where most of the action in the movie takes place. So that was when they went to his apartment, they knock on the door and they see a dude coming up. Dude comes and then takes a shot down the hallway. A shot,
runs away.
Right. So everybody chasing him. So, and then after all that action, they came back, and then he tried to say, "We need a warrant." It's like, no, we don't need a warrant. We know he did. It's like, but how did we get here? We need a reason to get here. And then, and that was Somerset trying to talk to Mills. Somerset trying, he the older, reasoning dude. It's like, we can't go in there, because we don't have a reason for being here. And they argue for a little bit, and then it seems like Somerset convinces Mills that not to knock down the door, because then if Mills kicks down the door, then they'll lose all that eevidence. And next thing you know,
he kicks down the door.
And
asks how much money we got. And they end up paying a druggie to lie for them, saying, there was a guy going in and out at night. And, I got suspicious. So, I called Somerset to come down here and check it out, And it's like, oh, yep, the dirty tactics. Yep, there it is.
Right.
And I'm like, and he did learn that from Somerset himself, because he did pay an FBI guy to do research.
It's probably something that he did, because remember, he transferred from another location.
That also probably is something that he used to do
in this other location. Right. So yeah, that was a trip. That was a nice part. So so they go in and they find all the basically his personal space.
Yeah, his personal space, all the evidence that he did it.
Right.
And to the point where they find pictures where he legit saw them and took pictures of them at some point of time in the movie.
Do you remember what it was?
Apparently, it was like when they was at the stairs.
Right, when the very first or second murder, I can't remember if it was the first or second murder.
It's probably
but they were in the apartment. They was up some stairs, and then
it was the second apartment where he agreed.
Right.
So he took the pictures when they went back to church.
Right.
And then
he said, "Get out of here!" He's like, "I'm oppressed. I have a right to be here." And he was like, "Get out of here!" You don't remember that part?
Yeah, that was probably him. Yeah,
that was him.
That was him.
That was messed up. So they looked the killer in the face, and they told him to go away. And obviously the killer knew that was going to happen. So so they go in, they find photographs of themselves, they find photographs of all the former victims, and then they find a photograph of at least one of his next victims.
Yeah.
So I remember watching I had watched a video on the internet where somebody had a very sophisticated I forgot what you call it, analysis. He had a very sophisticated analysis about this movie, and I was like, man, that's eloquent. There's no way I could say it like that. It was like that. Those are very good insights, but this I can't use those words. I don't know what half of those words mean. I don't. So yeah, I was, but it was impressive. Like, one of the things that they looked at it is that it rained all the time. You notice that?
Oh yeah, it was like always mostly rainy and some of the scenes.
It rained all the time, and it was a dark and dreary, and that's because the entire city was like a dark and dreary city. It was a type of city where the main themes of this movie is that basically people are generally apathetic, and that's why Somerset, the older detective, Morgan Freeman, that's why he's ready to retire, because he's tired of the city. He's tired of an apathetic city, being in a place where, where nobody cares is rewarded. That's why he puts out the example of, like, if a woman is in trouble, then, or, she doesn't holler help or rape. She don't holler those words. She hollers fire, because if you holler help, then people stay away because they're apathetic. But if you holler fire, then people will come running. They want to come and see the fire. So that's the kind of thing he talk about. Where Mills is different. He thinks that he can make a difference. He's not at the point where he's a newer detective. He doesn't believe that. He believes that he can make a difference. That's the thing. He believes that he's chasing. He believes that he's going to chase his clues, and he's going to solve the crime. He's going to catch the criminal, and he's going to solve the crime. Somerset is different. Somerset is like, all we're here to do is to what?
Just to collect information.
Right, pick up the pieces. That's it. We just here to pick up the pieces and then file it away. And maybe if there's a court case, they can use the evidence to convict the criminal. So we're going through most of them. Did we miss one?
Let's see. Gluttony,
right.
Greed, lust.
Right.
What was the other one?
Gluttony, greed. Let me look at this though. I want to go through all of them before we get to the last two. So you mentioned 3 of them. So sloth. Okay.
Yeah, sloth.
Sloth. And pride. Because the woman whose nose he cut off.
Yeah.
Right. That was kind of messed up. You remember how
basically gave her a phone and gave her some sleeping pills, and she had the option to call the cops, and then if she does that, then her face gets more messed up.
No, not more messed up. The cops would save her.
Oh yeah, the cops would save her.
Or the ambulance would say, she called 911, and the cops and the ambulance would show up, so they would save her life. They would save her life,
but her face would be distorted.
Right.
Or she can just take the pills and end it all.
Right.
And she decided to take the pills to end it all because she would not let her pride.
Right, because she
was
the best prideful. Of her. See, apparently she was a model, so she was so prideful that she would rather die than to live with a disfigured face. And that's just plain evil. Plain. That's what I mean. That's that. What you call it? That's that. What movie were we just talking about before?
You mean Batman?
No, not Batman. The one where I talked about Chris Rock. What was that movie?
Saw.
Yeah, that's that Saw aspect of this movie where the criminal forces, like in every instance, like with gluttony, he forces that dude to eat till he dies, and
sloth is forced to stay in bed, not to move.
Forced to stay in bed. But actually, that was the only one where he forced himself on the other dude. He forced the dude. Somehow he overpowered the dude, strapped the dude to the bed, and then he just force-fed the dude drug over the course of the year until the drugs killed him. So that's the only really one where he didn't force the dude to do it to himself. He was already doing it to himself, but he just he
wasn't dead. Remember, he was still alive.
Right. No, I'm just saying. Yeah, but he kept force-feeding him the drugs, and then but that was the only one that he did himself. But most of the other ones,
Greed is kind of confusing because I guess it has. I don't even know what
he forced the dude to cut out a pound of his own flesh.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So he gave the dude a knife and put a gun to his head, and it was basically like, cut out your own flesh. So and that's why I asked, well, where's the safest place to cut? It was probably the love handles, and you see that he had a big in the photograph. He had a big missing chunk, and forced them to cut a pound of, and then apparently he bled to death. And it really messed up. I couldn't do it. Usually you have to shoot me, because I'm not going to cut myself. I'm not going to do it. I don't like the pain. It's like, it's easier for you to just shoot me in the head than for me to cut myself. Or you can cut me. You tie me up and cut me. You can do that, and I ain't going to like it, but I'm not going to cut myself. I mean, no. This ain't Saw. So no, I couldn't do that. I could, if like, well, actually with that woman with pride, he the one that cut her nose off, But and then he just gave her the choice to live or to die. And yeah, I would have to call 911. But then again, I'm not prideful. Look at my face. It looks like a prideful face. Look at this gut. This gut I have here is not the gut of a prideful person. At least not on his body.
Another thing that really threw them off is because he wasn't going in order as how the greed is actually written.
Yeah,
he was going in a different type of order.
Right. So yeah, he was going in a different order than it.
Because the order's supposed to be pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. That's how the order really goes in.
Right, but I don't think he was all that concerned. He just wanted to get his message out. And so, do you remember what his message was, basically?
Sounds like the world is just evil and no one cares about that.
Basically,
and
yeah.
None of them are punished for it.
Right, and he was going to make them pay. He felt that he was called upon the higher power to make them to listen, because he didn't want to just speak to them. He felt that he had to do something more. He had to do something extravagant, and that extravagant act will have people talking about it for years to come. He said this event will be studied. You know, it will be talked about and studied for years.
Yeah, he did win.
Right. Basically, he won. So in the end, let the people know what happened in the end.
So in the end, we have Mills and
Mills and
Somerset taking John Doe out into the fields because he's like, well, I'm going to take you where the last body is at.
How did they get John Doe in the first place?
John Doe just walked into the apartment with his hands in the air.
He just walks right in.
And they realized why they could never find his fingerprints, because this man constantly kept cutting off his fingerprints.
Right.
Just so he leaves no evidence at all.
Right.
Even though there's a better way, aka rubber gloves, but then again, he was like, screw it. No, thank you, no fingertips.
Because it would have been better, because it's painful to touch stuff without skin on your fingertips, so you just wear gloves all the time, because you're gonna wear the Band-Aids. So
that's what he did. He wrapped his finger in
Band-Aids.
So
Band-Aids. I guess he just figured he didn't want to accidentally touch anything, because remember, they could find fingerprints in his own house.
In his own house, there was
right.
One
so
fingerprint.
He didn't want to accidentally touch something. So instead, he just cut off.
I feel like he did buy some gloves just to cut his own fingers off and then throw the knife away. Or something.
I don't know.
But other than that, it's just completely weird and mind-boggling that he still did it.
Yeah, that's
years
wild.
To come.
That's wild. It's wild.
Because they found out that he continually do it, because he couldn't have just done it once.
Right.
He did it multiple times, especially with that guy he left in the bed.
Right. So you were like, you was talking about, so they got him. They made a deal with his attorney to drive him out to the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, to find the two bodies. Now, when they go all the way out there, they just looked around confused, talking about, we don't see a body. They do see a dead dog, but he's like, I didn't do that.
Right.
And he asked Somerset, what time is it? He tells him it's 7:01. He's like, okay, good, we're close.
Right.
They go further out into the field. And by the way, there is a helicopter following them, even though he specifically said he just wanted those two.
Right.
And, they're out there looking. That's when they see a truck come up. So Somerset goes to stop the truck to see what's up. The guy comes out saying, I was here to deliver a package to Mills. He allows the guy to bring the package out, put it down, and figure out, if he was telling, not telling the truth, but to see his ID. He was like, okay, now get out of here. Tells the guys in the helicopters, he's going back up north. Have someone pick him up. He opens up the box and he sees something horrifying. Now, I can already tell what was inside the box, since the movie don't want to say it. And, the murderer already claimed, already told him what was in the box. He already gets the idea who the next two victims are, who the next three victims are. So he immediately runs back to Mills.
There's only two more victims.
Yeah.
Right, there's only two more. So what happened is that, at this point, Mills is covering John Doe with his gun, and Somerset is over there where the box is. I guess they're like several hundreds of feet apart, at least 100 feet apart. So when he sees what's in the box, he starts running back,
telling Mills to put his gun down.
Right.
Constantly still running, telling him to put his gun down. And Mills is very getting upset at this point because he's confused and just getting irritated by the way the guy is talking because he
Right,
brought
now
up
that-
his wife,
Right.
brought up how he wanted to play husband, how it didn't work out, and how he had to silence her.
Right. Right.
And by the time Somerset got there, he keeps telling him to put the gun down because he already figured out what the plan was.
Right.
He figured out that he was like, "Listen, we're following into his plan. This is what he wanted. Put the gun down."
Right.
And then Mills at this point is constantly getting pissed off even more, trying to figure out what was inside the box.
Right.
And he pieced it together himself on what was inside the box without looking. And he's just heavily devastated.
Well, he figured out because the dude kept telling him.
Kept telling him.
Right. And but what he said something that really drove Mills over the edge. And what was that?
Oh yeah, saying, "Oh yes, he had a baby."
Right.
She was talking about. She was saying it was like, "Oh, he didn't know," and the only one that knew was Somerset, and he was like, and he told his wife to, you have two options: to get the abortion and don't say anything, or to tell him.
Right.
But that's the only advice I can give you.
Right.
And again, he's heavily devastated. He is broken, and he is fueled with rage, wrath, and this complete depression of sadness.
Right.
And you can see it when he holds his gun. He is mad with anger when he points the gun, but then when he puts it down, he's filled with sadness. And he's contemplating himself on if he should pull the trigger, killing him, or just let him get arrested and be put in jail forever.
Right. So if he allows him to get arrested, then
he's just living a life of depression and sadness.
Well, it's not that. It's that the plan fails. John Doe's plan fails.
His plans failed, but ultimately, Mills is just a broken man.
Right. So Mills pulls the trigger. Yeah, Mills he's messed up.
Pulls the
and
trigger,
Somerset
is
trying to calm him down and trying to talk him out of it, but is like Mills is inconsolable.
Yeah,
and the what you call it, his pregnant wife is dead, and he not only did he find out his wife was pregnant, but then he was murdered. She was murdered, and her head was cut off
and
by
put in a box.
A psychopath, and put in a box as some kind of sick joke. So yeah, he not only did he shoot him in the head, but he
shot him multiple times.
Yeah,
until his clip was completely empty.
He emptied his clip into that man. And he was messed up. But before John Doe died, he explained that he envied his wife.
Yeah, envy, and that was the key tell.
He envied Mills, because actually on the car ride to this remote location,
he was kept talking.
He told
how he
Mills
wanted to live an ordinary life.
Right. He told Mills how he envied him, and he kept telling him again,
Even when he first called him, he was like, "I envy you."
Right. So he was telling him the whole time. So he was explaining that this was the sin that he was experiencing, and he needed to be punished. And Mills was filled with wrath, and that was his sin. But see, he forced that upon him, right?
Yeah.
It's like otherwise he wouldn't have felt that. It's like you made him feel that way. It's not like that was the life that he lived. That was like all the other so-called sinners that he murdered
has something to do.
Yeah,
with
that was
what
part of
they
their
had
lifestyle. So you had gluttony, for example. That was what he was, a big fat man anyway. So that's what he was. You had sloth, that he stayed in the bed all the time. That was what he was, and so on and so forth. How he was
greedy with all the money.
Right. So that was what they did. But with wrath, it wasn't like there are wrathful people.
Yeah.
But Mills wasn't a wrathful
he was
person.
actually a nice, kind person. Sure, he lost his temper at times.
Yeah, he was very emotional. He was a very emotional
But he
dude.
wasn't just straight up always,
24/7
pissed off.
Right. So, and in this way, he's just being... So the killer's just being an a-hole at this point.
Yeah.
He's just being a massive a-hole.
And to him, the only way for him to get punished for his envy was to have someone full of wrath kill him.
Right.
So he saw forth that since Mills was pissed that he couldn't catch him when they, went to his apartment, he took it upon himself to do a little investigation of his own to figure out if he was, with someone or not. When he did, he took that as his way to make Mills wrath.
Right. Make him wrathful. So yeah, and in that way, this is a brilliant movie.
That does explain why he had fresh blood on him too when he came in.
He killed a bunch of people when he came in. He did the Pride murder where he cut off that woman's nose. He killed that was his own blood. So
Yeah.
it was own blood from his fingertips because this is the police captain talking about the blood types they found.
Yeah, blood from the woman, from his fingertips, and from a third unknown party.
Right, and the third unknown party was his wife. So that was messed up. and the ending of this movie is close to how what you call it, the one where I see dead people. What was that one called?
I don't know.
But you know which one I'm talking about, right?
I believe so.
The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that's the kind of ending it had. It had a Sixth Sense type of ending where it's like it was basically totally unexpected. The way it ended came out of nowhere. Did you expect that?
Of him to shoot?
No. As far as the way that the whole ending played out,
I really did because anyone would get that upset to not just let a guy.
No, I'm just talking about like his. Did you know like his wife was going to be murdered and all that kind of stuff?
Yes.
I didn't. I was totally blown away. I had no idea none of that was gonna happen. It was like I didn't expect him to even turn himself into the police station. So
I picked it up when the moment they said it was a third party, and I was like, it has to be someone very important for this, an unknown third party, and he legit turns himself in knowing that this is his plan.
Right. And here, and that was the thing though, right? Because the detectives didn't know why he would turn himself. It's like, why is he turning? And because it was like, Mills is like, man, he's just messing with us. And Somerset was like, yeah, you're right this time. Because the whole time, Somerset and Mills are kind of like at the opposite ends. Mills is real hot-headed and he's cocksure and he wants to, it's almost like he wants to fight all the time. And Somerset likes to take his time and likes to think and likes to ask questions to make sure he gets everything right. That he wants to get all of the clues, and while Mills is super impulsive. So so that's and that dynamic in the movie that makes it like special. That's a special movie in moviedom. So you know what? Let's go over to trivia. Why don't you tell us what's what?
As preparation for his traumatic scene in the interrogation room, Leland Orser would breathe in and out rapidly so that his body would overly saturate it with oxygen, giving him the ability to hyperventilate. He also did not sleep for a few days in order to achieve his character disoriented look. Disoriented look.
So you know which one they're talking about?
Oh yeah, the one Lust.
Right.
The one filled with lust.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and yes, someone like that would, come out like that after being forced to kill someone via penetration like that.
Right. That'll mentally mess you up. I don't think that dude is gonna be right for the rest of his life. He really acted that. And Brad Pitt at the end, he acted the crap out of that scene, whether or not trying not to kill this dude. Ended up killing him anyway. New Line executives originally balked at the film's ending, but Brad Pitt refused to make the film if the ending was changed.
Some tell me that they wanted the ending to be like, oh yeah, Brad Pitt character doesn't kill him.
Right.
And the criminal gets put in jail.
Right.
But if they did that, it would have been like, yeah.
Right.
That would just mean he wasn't broken enough. He was just devastated. It's not broken. No.
Right.
A broken person would shoot out of rage.
Right. Basically, they didn't want a movie where the bad guy wins.
Oh, well, too bad.
Right.
David Fincher took Kevin Spacey and Brad Pitt, told Kevin Spacey and Brad Pitt, this is not going to be the movie that you're remembered for, but it may be a movie you're incredibly proud of.
He was wrong in the first point. People remember this
people
movie.
remember. And I'm pretty sure they was proud of it because of how well the acting was.
Well, yeah, he told them that they was going to be proud of it, and I'm pretty sure that they were proud of it. But he definitely, people
was wrong about
movie.
Not being remembered.
Brad Pitt fell while filming a scene in which Mills chases John Doe in the rain. Pitt's arm went through a car windshield, requiring surgery. The accident was worked into the script. Coincidentally, the original script called for Detective Mills to be injured during the sequence. So it all worked out.
Denzel Washington turned down the part that went to Brad Pitt, telling Entertainment Weekly that the film was too dark and evil. Washington later regretted his decision upon seeing a screening.
Yeah. How about next time you don't shy away from dark movies. Directed by David Fincher. Actually, there was a couple other people that turned down this movie too for the same reason.
Oh, it's too dark.
And,
I don't want to do it. Nope, too dark anymore.
Right.
Nope, no, thank you.
And they all regretted it.
It's like, dang, I should have done it.
Right. All of John Doe's books were real books written for the film. They took 2 months to complete and cost $15,000. According to Morgan Freeman, 2 months is about the time it would take for the police to read all the books.
I mean, yeah, it would take, especially if you have, even with 50 people, it would take a lot of time.
Right.
Because there's too many books.
It would take like 50 cops 2 months to read all of the books.
The filmmaker's decision, it should always be rating for 2 reasons. It added scene of dread, and they never had to worry about bad weather.
Right, of course. The film's brooding, dark look was achieved through a chemical process called bleach bypass. The silver in the film stock was not removed, which deepened the dark, shadowy images in the film.
David Fincher thought that Morgan Freeman would turn down the role, thinking he felt more the film was too down market, but he was the first one to eagerly join the cast.
Right, down market, which means that it wasn't like a AAA film, so to speak. David Fincher said he wanted someone who was incredibly skinny, around 90 pounds, to play Victor. When Michael Reed McKay auditioned, he weighed 96 pounds. Fincher gave him the part and jokingly told him to lose some more weight. Much to his surprise, McKay had lost another 6 pounds when the filming started. So that's the dude that was tied to the bed. That's why he looked so skinny. That wasn't makeup. That wasn't a doll. That was him having lost all of his weight.
David Fincher was impressed with Gwyneth Paltrow.
That name is kicking your butt.
Yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow's work in Flesh and Bone that came out in 1993. She was his first choice of the role of Brad Pitt's wife. Paltrow was intensely not interested, so Fincher asked her then boyfriend, Brad Pitt, to convince her to meet with him.
The makeup for Sloth Victim took over 14 hours.
Yeah, sure. Brad Pitt said Gwyneth Paltrow character is the only sunshine we have in the film.
Right.
I mean, sunshine for the first part, but then the second part, she's just heavily sad because she is pregnant.
No, it was actually raining in that part too. But
yeah, but she was still
after she had her head cut off. That day was a sunny day when her head was cut off. For the gluttony scene, 7 crates of cockroaches were released on the set and poured on Bob Mack. Something had to be put on Mack's ears and nose to stop the cockroaches from crawling in. It didn't stop them from crawling into his underwear. I'm like, nope, no.
They probably paid him enough money.
I'm like Jean-Luc Picard. No.
They paid enough money.
Not here. I couldn't do it. Nope, no roaches. CGI that joint.
When Mills lists motive the killers give, one of them is Jodie Foster told me to do it. John Hinckley Jr., who was obsessed with Foster, attempted to assassinate President Ronald Reagan on March 30th, 1981, in order to impress her. Mills also says, my dog told me to do it. David Berkowitz, a.k.a. the son of Sam, a serial killer who terrorized New York City in the summer of 1976 and 1977, claimed that his neighbor dog was possessed and told him to commit murder. What? Yeah, that's just insane asylum right there.
Yeah, that's wild. Both of them, really.
Yeah, I did it for J.D. Foster. Oh, my dog told me to do it.
Right.
What? No!
David Fincher was determined to make the film without compromising his vision. On his first film, Alien 3, in 1992, Fincher battled with the studio and was fired 3 times.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. Again, there's a YouTube. His name is Matt McMuscles, and he has a series called What Happened.
Right.
And one of them was Alien 3.
Right.
Where, on how it was this turmoil on just trying to make the movie.
Right.
They even tried to get a dog to play one of the aliens, but it didn't work out because, running out of time.
Right.
Let's see. For the greed scene, Gene Borkin, who plays the victim, was hog-tied and only wearing his underwear for most of the shooting. He was covered in over 2 gallons of fake blood, and the blood was so thick and sticky that his knees became stuck to the floor.
Man.
Get some alcohol pads.
And here's the thing. They didn't even... If they filmed it, they didn't put that in the cut.
In the cut, yeah.
Yeah, we only saw the photographs. That's what's so messed up about it. We only saw the photographs of the scene.
I feel like they probably wanted... I think they did it so they could just take the... They at first wanted to... I think at first they wanted to show it, but they was like, too much effort. Just use the pictures that we're taking. Right. It would be much easier.
But it's like for all the other victims, the detectives goes in and the victim is still there. So this is like the only one where they go there and they already moved the victim body. And all you saw was the photograph, so that was kind of messed up. I would be mad. It's like, don't you know my knees were stuck to the floor? If all y'all was going to take pictures? Anyways, let me go over the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah, you do that.
For those who are not familiar. So,
I mean, if they watch the anime, then I guess they should work.
Right. So, let me adjust this monitor so I can see it. So, there are lust, to have an intense desire or need. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. That's from Matthew 5:28. Gluttony, excess in eating and drinking. For drunkards and gluttons become poor, and drowsiness clothes them in rags. That's Proverbs 23:21. Greed, excessive and reprehensible acquisitiveness. Having lost all sensitivity, they have given themselves over to sensuality so as to indulge in every kind of impunity with a continual lust for more. That's from Ephesians 4:19. Sloth, also known as laziness, disinclined to activity or exertion, not energetic or vigorous. The way of the sluggard is blocked with thorns, but the path of the upright is a highway. Proverbs 15:19. Number 5, wrath, strong, vengeful anger or indignation. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Proverbs 15:1. 6, envy, painful or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another, joined with a desire to possess the same advantage. Therefore, rid yourself of all malice and all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and slather of every kind. Like newborn babies, crave pure spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation. 1 Peter 2:1-2. The last one, pride. Well, I don't know if these are in order. I'm just reading them in the order that was given to me by IMDb.
I know you
get all of our trivia.
Just continue on.
Quality or state of being proud, inordinate self-esteem. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. So those are the 7 deadly sins.
And I'll be honest, the world is already filled with enough sins anyway, because everyone holds at least one or a few of them in themselves.
Well,
you can reject it all you want, but you should already know that it's true. Everyone has greed, envy, lust. It's always going to be in them. There's nothing you can do to get rid of it, to be honest.
Yeah, that is true. It's run several 1996 Saturn Awards.
You mean 1996?
Yeah, that's what I said.
I thought you sound like you said 7.
Oh.
It got Best Writing by Andrew Kevin Walker, Best Makeup by Jean Ann Black and Rob Bolton.
So, let's find out what the critics thought of this masterpiece. Critics gave it an 83%. The audience gave it 95%. The audience really liked this on Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb gave it an 8.6 out of 10. So Gene Sisco, we talked about a lot of Gene Sisco. Let's see what Gene Sisco, the Chicago Tribune says. We're seeing if you could look past the gruesome details. That is correct.
Michael Wilmington from also from Chicago Tribute. Unfortunately, most of the scenes in Seven are unlikely, which means that by the end of the movie, the duo is battling not just an insane killer, but an off-the-wall screenwriting.
I don't agree. Anyways, Janet Maslin, New York Times, she wrote, "The crime scenes are rendered in sickening detail, and the whole film has a murky, madly pretentious tone." And I don't know, that's a little much. That's a little much to say that.
Susan Stark from Entertainment Weekly. When's the last time you saw a movie in which the divine comedy figured as a significant plot point?
You know what? Never. This is the only one. This is the only movie I saw that was like that. There is a game on which the divine comedy is based, and I played a tiny bit of it, but not all of it. And then there's also an anime, and I only know about the anime because of the video I told you that I watched earlier. They included an anime of Dante's Inferno.
They did bring up the book Dante.
Right. Well, Dante's Inferno is the original book that was written hundreds and hundreds of years ago. I'm not exactly sure when it was written, but it was hundreds of years ago. And actually, Dante's Inferno is where many Christian religions get their idea about hell and the afterlife from. They kind of adopted the ideas that were expressed in Dante Inferno. So actually, I wrote that the next episode was Waterworld, but that's not true. The next episode is actually Willow. The next episode is Willow. That's going to be a magical adventure. So, once again, if you like this show, then please rate us, write a review, share it with someone. Use a pound, Backlook Cinema on Twitter, or you can @Backlook Cinema on Twitter, on Twitter, or your favorite social media sites. Believe me, it matters. Be safe, hug your loved ones, and be outstanding.